Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. And as we start, let's go through and say who is here for the record. This is Sarah Pesek.
This is
Williams.
Kapilishwari.
Steve Stackhouse.
Dane Cuppinger.
Johnny Taylor.
And then Helen Potowski. I think that.
Did you get everyone, Helen?
Yes.
Okay. The first thing on our agenda is to adopt the May minutes.
I move to adopt the minutes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the May meeting minutes have been adopted. And is Jennifer on the line?
I'm actually going to be doing the Be City USA updates today. It's not anything too different than what it was just a couple of weeks ago. She just wanted to let you guys know that the work was ongoing and still moving forward. And just to remind you guys that the pollinator week is the 3rd week of June. So just be on the lookout for the videos, the story map, and other relevant posts and Facebook, social media shares and things like that. So that'll all be happening that 3rd week of June. And then if you don't mind, I'll just roll into the sustainability update since they're sort of back to back. Just wanted to give you guys an update that I'm sort of in the middle of several different projects. So I'm working on the CDP annual reporting again right now. And then we have started the Lead for Cities data collection process with various members of relevant departments here in the city. And then additionally, let's see, those two, I'm working on a recycling questionnaire, I guess you could call it. You all may be familiar with the term dichotomous key, something used a lot to identify plants and various species like that. I had just an idea that maybe, you know, if someone had an item that they weren't sure if it was recyclable or not, they could go through and answer questions sort of in a similar fashion that then leads them to the answer about whether or not it's recyclable or if it could be recycled in somewhere other than our curbside collection program. So I'm working on that. That will, if it goes well, will be on our website soon under the recycling pages for people to fill out. And hopefully that is something easy enough for folks to be able to use. For their
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Going back to the LEAD process,
yes.
Can you remind us what some of the differences in data collection is between the LEAD for cities and the ICLEI? Like, are you having to start from scratch in a lot of areas?
No. So ICLEI is not, we're not a part of that. You may have meant STAR communities.
Yeah, sorry, ICLEI,
Okay.
the organized
Okay,
body,
yeah.
sorry, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I figured that's what you meant. But yeah, so pretty similar data requests there, just a significant amount less, honestly. So I think it is going to be somewhat easier to coordinate at least the collection process among those folks who have agreed to help us. And again, this time around, I do already feel like I have a good handle on who it is to ask, since several of them helped me in the STAR communities data collection process. So yeah, and you know, they gave us a really good, we had a helpful webinar that took participating members just sort of through what Lead for Cities was and the process, and you know, why maybe certain things are being asked, and things like that that really helped the team understand and get us all on the same page. So I feel really good about where we are with that. Again, we've just sort of started that process, and I haven't received any information back, but there's really, you know, with everything that's going on right now, there's not a hard, fast date for when we plan to be done or hope to be done or anything like that. But we are working on it. So.
And
So,
is
comment, Helen. We had exchanged emails about if you possibly need any help from interns. A lot of interns are applying to Piedmont Environmental for the fall semester. So if you have anything that they could do, we could reach out to the Piedmont Environmental Alliance and get some help from the students from Wake Forest.
Sure. Yeah. And I will say the difference, I think, is that Lead for Cities is, from what I have seen, is more about the actions that the city organization itself is taking. And so, you know, it's just the easiest place to go for that are the folks who are working on that stuff within the city organization. So it's not a lot about community data, which is, you know, in that case, maybe that would have been where we went with this. But because it's more about what actions, like I said, the organization is taking, it just makes a little bit more sense, I think, to go to the people doing that work right now. So. All right. Are there any other questions about that? Any updates that I just shared?
I had a question that came up from some other people about the Bee City, or maybe somebody from Bee City could answer. In our area, a lot of people spray the yards with the mosquito control products, and they asked me what I thought, and I said, well, maybe the bees get harmed, and I'm a gardener, so I'm not sure that that's a great idea. So the question was, well, does from me to Bee City people, Jennifer or you, are there any recommendations from the city about what products might be safe, or what companies might be doing safe alternatives to mosquito treatment that we could start disseminating as information to people?
Sure. I can suggest to Jennifer that, you know, suggestions like that be added into some of the material that she's compiled. Right now, we haven't looked at anything like the companies that you've mentioned that maybe use less harmful chemicals, practices, what have you. But yeah, and I would just point you again to the city ordinance about what we're using. I know at some point they took out some of the more harmful chemicals, but not all of them. So I would look there for some guidance to start, and then I'll pass that suggestion on to Jennifer and see what we can come up with.
I have a question. I don't know if this is a rumor or whether it's true, but I recently heard that the city or the local recycling plant does not take glass. Is that correct?
That is true for the city of Greensboro. I think I've mentioned it before. The city of Greensboro took it out of their curbside collection stream. We have not, and as far as I am aware, we do not plan to. So yeah, I would discount that rumor.
Okay, did you have any other updates for us, Helen?
I did not. That wraps that up for me. And I'll pull up the next thing on the agenda if we're done with those updates. I just wanted to let you guys know, now that we're going into the second year of this, just remind everyone that the members' terms are meant to last 2 years. However, since this is the first full year of this committee, some of you will be rotating off in May of 2021, and some of you will stick around until May 2022. so we can get the alternating years started. So I'm just going to pull up now so you can see who is assigned what. This was assigned randomly, who rotates off when, just to let you know. So let's see. And if you ever wanted to find this information or send someone else, just take note of where we're going right now on the website. Okay. So here is the table. And just make note of when it says you yourself will be rotating off. And we can get into a little bit more later on what this process entails for everyone. But I just thought I'd give you guys a heads up since we're moving into that second year.
So, okay, does anyone have any questions about the terms?
No. So I mean, I hate to rotate off on some level eventually, but it's good that I like the rotation, so, right? So we can keep having diversity of voices in these groups. And it's nice not to be in another committee that will last forever. I have enough of those.
So Dane, we just have to get more stuff from you right away before you leave.
Oh, well, we still have another year, so I'm
yes.
not going anywhere. But yes.
Sorry, I'm a little distracted by a hurt child, but I think we are resolving it.
Okay.
Okay, can we talk, can we bring people up to speed, those who were not on the call a couple of weeks ago? I know that you read the minutes, but just to kind of catch you up to where we're at as far as the language that's proposed to go forth in front of the city council, what do you call it, the general government?
Yes. Committee. Nailed it.
Committee. So the hope was that we can present to that smaller committee as just a few members. And in order to present to them, we need to work backwards from the next possible date that we could present to them, because we have to fill out a form and submit our PowerPoint presentation slides, and there's a lot of work that needs to happen before we actually go to the committee. And I think I have to pull up your message, Helen, but I think the next one is planned for August.
Yes.
Okay. So that, working back, we need to have, again, I'm trying to pull, do you have that handy, Helen?
The resolution, I am looking for
the schedule.
Oh, the schedule. Sure. Let me look for that. Let me see.
So yeah, so we need to create a schedule in line with that schedule. And Helen will pull that up because it shows, I think it's mid-July maybe, that we'd have to submit things. But it's already June 4th, which is kind of shocking to me. So I think if there is any work we need to do in the meantime to prepare the slides, any other further discussion among this committee, any questions about the proposal. So that is one piece. And the other piece I'd love to touch on, if we have time today, is if that process is already going forward and we have that schedule laid out, parallel to that, what else do we want to be doing in the next couple months? So that's an open discussion as well.
Well, and to that point, before we move on to that discussion, I will bring up the last thing that is on the scheduled agenda about the work or the annual report, and then therefore the next year's work plan. So you guys never set a work plan this year, or if you did, I don't know. I haven't seen a document about that. However, because it's the end of the fiscal year, and this committee has now been meeting one full year, maybe even as of today, that annual report is something that will need to be created by you guys, just probably as an information piece for council, just so they see what you guys have worked on. So just keep that in mind, and then think about that when you're creating that work plan and thinking about the work that you want to do in the upcoming year.
When is that due to council?
Johnny, I don't know if you have any insight, but I think things are a little bit thrown off this year. So while it may have been expected by the end of this month, I'm not sure now if that's changed.
Yeah, some of those things are off schedule wise. As I get more information, what I'll do, I'll pass that on to Helen. But it may very well be that we need to have something together by that August meeting. But I will let you know. I'll find out something.
Great, thanks, Johnny.
I just don't want anything to come into competition with what we're trying to get to them now.
And do you have any samples of maybe other annual reports that have been presented to other committees, just so that we get a sense of what they expect to see and like length and, you know, density?
Yeah, so I have a couple from other cities, but they are their environmental boards. So I have those examples. I haven't found any or put together any from committees here in the city of Winston-Salem, but I can do that as well. If you do want to see an example, I do have the environmental boards from Cary, and then the example from Raleigh right now that I can share with you guys. If you
previously, Helen, you had sent us maybe.
I think those exact two. Yeah.
Those two. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I think I've sent them before as
they
well.
They were well written and not too wordy, but lots of different priorities listed. So I think, yeah, we can start on a Google Docs, a structure similar to those maybe, and start prioritizing what our work plan should be. And you know, it's kind of hard to have a short-term work plan, but we could do short and long-term work plan, because it is some things take longer. Like, for example, Lead for Cities, the data collection, at the very first 2 meetings, we decided that was a great opportunity for us to kind of highlight that as a priority, and from that figure out what we were bad at and what we were good at, and then probably focus on getting the lowest scoring things up, the prerequisites. So we could start putting those items together. And I know Dane had worked on some trees and local shrubbery and everything. So that data collection has happened on Dane's end. And then I think this resolution is maybe one of the things that I spend the most time on. So we could have 2 or 3 things going with that, and see how it turns out. We don't know if anybody's going to read it or how it's consumed, but that it should be easy, and it should be something that they can work on, and be a easy guidance for them. Hopefully something useful.
Now, officially, is do these committees do work in the summer?
Which committee?
Sorry.
Council committee or
Um,
your committee?
Our committee and like committees.
Yeah, I think what I mentioned previously about taking July off in lieu of the council taking July off, that's maybe the equivalent. We are still set up to meet every other month. So, you know, just to give you guys that month of the work months in between. So that's why we set that up that way. So I don't know if that was really your question or. Yeah,
Well, I mean,
okay.
we only meet every other month anyway. It's kind of, we won't be meeting in July, nor would we normally.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Sarah, it seems like a lot of work has to happen offline, not necessarily in the quorum setting, maybe individually or one or two people just trying to get some information together and looking for reasonableness of what we are writing or proposing. Maybe that's what we need to do, break up into small groups and try to figure out what to do. Because part of it is the 5 to 7 minute presentation for the resolution, and then the annual report and work plan. So there are, it looks like 3 things that we have, and then we can, divide and conquer those 3 aspects of work and see how we can get it done. But yeah, it looks like there is some work to do in the next 60 days for us.
Yeah, and I think that because you created so much of those, of the language for the resolution, I'm assuming that you're comfortable kind of trying to craft that into a PowerPoint presentation. You know, I think your challenge and anyone else who's working on that is going to be to pull it into that. I think one said 5 to 7 minutes is what we should plan on presenting, with then additional time for questions. So that will be a challenge.
Right. And then what I've done for that particular part is I reached out to the coalition that recommended this resolution in the first place. And that is just part of the resolution. And I asked them what they have done for the county, for the city of Louisville and other places that, and they are trying to pull together what they've done. I don't think they have a clean presentation that they've done. They've just gone in front of people and done 2 or 3 minute talks. So yeah, we are doing that. And there are 2 people who are also, we are in conversation with. One is Mike Mann from Penn State. He's the director of Earth Science Systems. And the other one is Mark Jacobson. He's a professor at Stanford, director of atmosphere and energy programs. And for some reason, Gail is in contact with them. I think it's a national Race to 100 program that these 2 professors are helping out with. So we have reached out to them to see if they have material that is easy to consume and short. So I'm working on it, and I haven't made much progress. So I'll definitely put together something and propose it to the committee to get reactions.
Great, thank you. And I keep thinking back to a luncheon that I was at. Helen was there, I think Rajesh was there, maybe a couple other people. And I was speaking with Councilmember Adams, and she said, basically what she said, to paraphrase her, was like, just get something in front of us. Like we want to see action. We want to see a proposed plan. I just want to see it so that I can support you, you know? And she is on this committee that will be presenting to. So I wonder, you know, in light of that, are there other, you know, as individual citizens, should we be reaching out independently to the other people who are on the council? Again, not as a committee, because I know there's like lots of rules about, you know, when can you meet as a committee, and you have to have fewer than so many people in order for it to be not publicly held and announced and everything. But like if we have individual relationships or develop those with the different council members and kind of give them a heads up, like this is what we're planning on presenting, can I tell you about it a little bit, and get feedback from them earlier on, I think that would be really beneficial. And then they also may very likely say, you know, here's a component that I'm hearing from my constituents that we really need to add in there, something that maybe we didn't even think of.
I would caution it's a thin line there, especially because our meetings are already open, and as you've seen, we do have council interest. We've had a few council members sit in and listen to sort of what we're saying. So because they do have that avenue, you know, that might be the safer way to go here. You know, you all are technically council appointees to this committee, and so you're already in some ways an extension of the city council itself because of that. And so you just have to think about, like you said, sort of the different layers and the thin lines there. So just keep that in mind. I can't speak to, you know, what you do in your personal time. I'm not sure about that. But I think that now, as a representative of this committee, it's just a thinner line than it used to be for you guys.
And what I've heard is the coalition people are already in touch with some of the council members and have been in touch for the last 1 year working on this language. So this conversation has already happened, not necessarily from me, but it is true that when I have, for example, Dan, Bessie, and I have run together for the last 10 years. So when he calls and says, have you heard my campaign is going well? And that's when I have to tell him, hey, this is what I'm working on. If you're interested, let me know, you know, and that's about it. Dan hasn't shown up to our meetings yet, but he has, we have chatted about it just yesterday, actually. What are you working on? And this is what I'm working on, you know, and the coalition people have been in active contact, and I think they may be still in active contact with them going forward to make sure that we try to answer all the questions before we get there. So like you said, Sarah, that if there's anything that we can do to make this palatable, or put some wording in there or delete some wording, you know, right now it's very hard for us to know what people might like or dislike until we get to the stage and the performance. So having any information up front would be helpful for us to craft this thing. And the thin line, yes, I do understand, but like I said, the conversations have happened already with some of the people, and some other people like Councilmember Larson. I used to see him weekly at Twin City Hive, because I go there in the morning for coffee and he shows up in the same time. So I will try to not say much, but so that's where we are.
And the folks that have come and sat in on our meetings, like Councilmember Mundy, and are they specifically invited, or do they come because they're like, oh, I'm interested and I want to see what's going on?
Yes, the second one.
Okay.
So it seems we've got these sort of three things to think of: the resolution, our work plan, and annual report. I hear Rajesh saying that he basically will be willing to bottom line, do a lot of the work on the resolution piece, that is the materials going out to the city committee. I'm willing to bottom line, trying to pull together the annual report. If somebody is willing to keep an eye on me, I tend to get long-winded. So yeah, I'll just put that out there. I'm happy. I'll willing to step up for that part.
Thanks, Dane.
Yeah, I remember Stephanie Fried saying that she's used to cutting words out of reports. She can help you with that. Being a professor and writing papers, that's what they do best, I guess.
Unfortunately, when I'm left with a fair bit of time and fairly open-ended thing, I tend to just keep going. It takes me a lot of time to narrow myself back down, but sometimes it's better if somebody else looks at what I've written and just says, gets out the pen. I'm better at doing it to students. I can't do it as well as myself. It's interesting.
So for some of the other people who are on the call, are there things that, like as far as work plan goes, areas that you're particularly interested in that you'd like to weigh in and say, what can we consider, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but X, Y, and Z program, or have questions about the other things that are already going on that might be in line with your interests, or you're hearing from colleagues or other members of the community?
The only thing in Northeast that I've been concerned about, and I talked to our Professor Kay about that, was all the building going on in Northeast Ward and the lack of replacing vegetation and invasives coming in. But that's a long-term thing with all the building that's continuing to go on with the highways coming through. So I would like to see that put on the radar.
So you're saying specifically with like transportation projects, or is it also like commercial
and transportation?
Okay.
Okay. Because near my home, especially I don't know if that's 40 that's coming through, but Old Walkertown Road coming through Walkertown, Kernersville area, homes and roads have been cut out. It's coming through pretty soon. And there's just been so much clearing out and displacement of wildlife as well. So, and I don't think that's been addressed in this area. And it may not even be a concern, but it's something we need to be concerned about.
Yeah. Johnny, where does that fall in like this landscape of government responsibility? Like, is that something that the city would actually have any control over? Like, as far as permitting for new projects, can they require that there be, that be addressed, or?
Uh-oh.
Sorry.
You know what? Johnny normally says, actually, they report to me. But if that's just like recycling, or, Are you in charge of this, Johnny?
No. The state, the project the young lady is speaking of, she's talking about the Northern Beltway extension. And of course, I'm very familiar with all of the deforestation and the whole landscape changing through that particular area. So what we do when there are projects inside the city, we would have control as far as land development, things of that nature, and things you can't do, things that you can do. With that particular project, that would be more on NCDOT. Now, it's possible that city county planning would have some information on some of those concerns you have. So I think what I heard you say was the fact that there was, of course, livestock, well, not livestock alone, but animals, wildlife. But you also mentioned the construction that's going on. So I want to ask you, what specific about the construction do you feel like, there's not been enough attention paid to?
I understand that a lot of things will be displaced in deforestation for the highways, but also, for instance, the Dollar General, what's going on Liberty, right there at Liberty and Akron, coming on down there as things are being redeveloped. It's been about roughly a year and a half since things had started getting cut out, but nothing's been replaced. So we're, when it rains, mud is everywhere. And I haven't seen any vegetation being replaced. And I mean, maybe I'm just, for lack of knowledge, don't know that it could be a 5-year process to replace that. But it's just concerning because it's starting to look bare, and then you get these invasives coming in, all these weeds, because there's nothing there for it to compete with.
Sure. Now that part of it is a little bit different. That's more of that's the inspections of stormwater part. Now the stormwater part, I do have a little bit of a. I'm not certain. Looks like we're playing internet musical chairs now. Okay. So those particular situations, you mentioned Dollar General, and you mentioned the construction that's going on there at Liberty and Akron.
Yes.
And both of those, any type of, I know Dollar our planning board, it would have gone through all of the permitting requirements. The situation at Liberty and Akron, I can do some research on, but it's possible that that is a state project as well. So yes, to make a long story short, there are some things that we look at in the actual inspection process. And as far as barren properties and controlling water on lots that the commercial construction, that thing should be monitored. Dust coming up, making sure that the water systems are not bogged down by sediments that are leaving construction sites. All of that is a part of our areas of responsibility. So what I will do, I'll try to find out. I'll find out some information about Liberty and Akron.
Okay.
And I will pass that on. If I don't get it directly to you myself, I will make sure that Helen gets it to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I just want to make sure I was addressing, exactly what you're referring to.
Well,
So-
Kira, if the vegetation has been taken away and it's the summer, it's probably even hotter than on the sidewalks there.
Yeah.
It
definitely is.
That's what I would probably notice most, like on a day like today. It's like there's no shade, there's nothing cooling this place down, it's all concrete.
Yeah.
I would also suggest, so right now the city is in process of updating its pedestrian plan where they are considering
I participated.
Great, perfect, because they are looking for suggestions about places to not only put more sidewalks, but how to make those sidewalks more usable, such as by making sure there's that vegetation and the tree canopy there to help encourage that stuff. So I'm glad that you were able to participate.
Yes, and the tree canopy is something that we are all looking at because that's one of my departments too. Vegetation management, one of my divisions. So yes, we are looking at that, but we like trees here.
Yes.
So we probably won't be planning to put less out. We like trees actually.
Right. Trees are good.
We're just trying to find the right trees with our infrastructure.
Right.
That doesn't cause problems for us later on. I think I probably repaired multiple sidewalks last year, and it was because the roots had raised the the squares up, the segments up, so that we had to actually do something. And I mean, it's amazing what a tree can do.
Right.
Okay, it's amazing what a tree can do. A tree can raise up that heavy concrete 2 or 3 feet, the root system. So we're working to try to make that better, so that when we're planning things now, that we don't have to come back in 5 years, 10 years and repair something, plus also have to take the tree out. So yeah, we're working to make that better.
So Johnny, is there anything that we can do as a committee to make recommendations for, say, improved design of sidewalks, or a study for that, or maybe even the tree ordinance, which is a hard topic, I understand. Anything that we can do to help your department get stronger in this field, have more tools, or have more, whatever you need to make this happen, not only in this one subdivision, but across the city? Anything we can do? Any suggestions? We can put on our work plan?
I'd like to chime in real quick, Johnny. So going back to that pedestrian plan, I would recommend, let as many people know about that as possible to make recommendations, because that is so important to increase usable pedestrian infrastructure. And also, if they're able to put in new sidewalks, you can also request that those sidewalks have enough space where you can plant trees either now or in the future. And just already be thinking about how to make sure that infrastructure is prepared to handle some kind of green infrastructure developments as well. And then I believe there's also, is it the bicycle? There's another plan that they are also updating where they're taking comments as well. So look there as well. And then what was the second part of your question? I had an answer for it. Oh, the tree stuff. So I recently learned about something from several cities in the Southeast called a tree fund. It's a slightly different take on tree policy. I would recommend you guys doing some research on that idea. That could be a different proposal than going to planning and saying, we want you to increase the percentage of the tree safe area. Maybe this is like just a different option that maybe is, a little bit easier for the development folks and, whoever else was pushing back to stomach that. So I would suggest doing a little bit of research into tree funds and other ways that communities have been successful. But we first, and I think I've mentioned this, we first have to really get a handle on what our tree canopy looks like and do an assessment. Right. Otherwise, there's no way for us to tell what is successful, what isn't successful in terms of that tree save percentage, tree canopy stuff, things like that.
So you're saying there's not a current map of tree cover for the city?
That's correct, yes. We have used something called iTree in the past, where you just click on it, like you start the program and basically you just keep going and get various different points. So you could go, I don't know how many points you could get, but say somebody does 200 different points from random parts of the city, and then that's how they sort of estimate what our tree canopy is right now. And that has given us, it's very close to 50% tree coverage in the whole city. But again, that is just based off of a program that sort of just does the best estimate kind of thing. But yeah, we don't have a GIS map where it has been digitally drawn out and identified and labeled and then spit a percentage out.
So a couple of quick things. Google Maps is good, but unfortunately they take pictures only in wintertime when the trees don't have cover, so they can see the ground. So this iTree, is that something that the public can use, or students maybe from school?
I think so, but again, it doesn't really offer you, it's not as probably accurate as an actual GIS program would be to identify the tree canopy. So like I said, it just literally puts a single dot in a big square, and based on what that dot is what it's classified as, and that's how they give you the best estimate. So there are definitely limits to that technology. However, I do think that until we're able to complete a true digitization of the tree canopy, that's sort of what we're basing our knowledge of our tree canopy on.
So
One
it seems,
crowdfunding, I mean, crowdsourced tree counting kind of ideas out there. If any other cities have done, with all these kids at home and with iPhones, they could easily take pictures of their own street, post it, and somehow come up with some information. But yeah, that would be an interesting area to research to see if there's anything else like that out there.
so
Do either of the two professors on here have, I mean, I know you guys are in similar areas in the university, have any experience with mapping like this or any other good programs?
As a former student of Dane, I know he does.
actually, yes. So I guess before we get to that, though, kind of take a half a step back. So it sounds to me in the realm of the work plan for next year that we have sort of three things that might be related that could be as part of that work plan. One, canopy assessment. Two, the research on how different communities have encouraged or required developers, or how they've dealt with the problem of tree loss and maintaining tree cover. And then three, a proposal, into what we as Winston-Salem might do going forward. So those things, like three kind of general items for a work plan for next year. As to ways to estimate canopy cover, yes, I actually teach a GIS class, and I'm going to be doing it in the fall. And it's actually one of those things I've marked after our last meeting as a potential class project. And so I was also been thinking that there are other folks at Winston-Salem State as well as at Wake who teach similar classes, and we could bridge, pull students from different schools and different classes within schools together to, as Roger said it, sort of crowd fund, but sort of student fund, or student source, I guess is the word, this process. And so I think that would be a fun and interesting challenge for next fall. So I've got it on my list to try to find a better way of doing that. So, I mean, there's some sort of simple things, like you can look at a total vegetation cover. That's really easy to do for a whole city using Landsat imagery. But if we're talking about tree canopy specifically, then Landsat or plain aerial imagery is tough because it's hard to distinguish trees from shrubs from grass. So that requires more feet on the ground assessment. Doable, and I've not done it before, but in a place as large as Winston-Salem. But I think we could. That's on my plan for the summer, is to try to, because I figure I can get some use out of it for the class, and so can the city if we can make it work. So
I think that would be fantastic. And it's a socially distanced way of doing things. I mean, if you're walking around and you're not in the classroom, I think the university.
Well, yeah, and I minored in GIS and digitized a whole bunch of stuff. And yeah, you don't talk to or really see anybody else when you're looking at that computer. So definitely safe.
Yep. So yeah. So I've got that on my calendar. I'll report back here, on that and what I find for that for our next meeting, which I guess will be August, I think. So yes. I'll have an answer for you by then. I'll have to have a class plan by then. So,
We only have about 8 minutes left. Does anybody else want to mention any concerns that they're hearing, any other areas of interest, ideas, projects that you'd like to share?
Sarah, one of the things that was in my mind is back in November or October sometime, we made these buckets of interests. I want to revisit that at some point to see if these people who were interested in those buckets would go back and try to get us some points for the work plan or report. That I know we've been a little bit scattered, focusing on this, that, but going back and trying to assemble all that information for that category, and maybe more hands make light work, and getting more people to participate in that kind of stuff. That'll help us with the workload going forward. I think it was just before the Christmas break that we had discussed that. I need to go back and find all the minutes of meetings, maybe.
And there still is a Google Doc that I'd have to go back and look at. I know that Dane did a lot of work on there, and you did too, on the building efficiency and design. And yeah, there's definitely opportunity there. I think a lot of my ideas for recycling improvement were shot down.
Nicely, please. Hopefully, I tried my hardest. And I'm excited. I'm hoping that my recycling questionnaire thing works, and you guys think it's an easy thing to use. So, tried my best on that as well.
So, well, is that ready to share, Helen, or are you still finishing it up?
I need some verification, I think, from our web editor. It's like a new form for the website. So it's the first one I'd ever created. So I'm still making sure that it is correct and works as it should. But like I said, hopefully if we're good, it should be up sometime this month. Like I said, if everything is good. So yeah, that's the plan.
Because most of the eco warriors are too enthusiastic about recycling and couldn't. And that's what that tool, or is it an app or paper or a magnet?
Yeah, so it's more along the lines, and I can just give you like a quick example. So I mean, just like one of the things that we get asked about a lot is, caps on or off water bottles. Pretty simple request or question anyways. And so the idea is, like, if you have this water bottle and you're just not sure, it'll ask you what kind of material it is. And so if it's plastic, you click that and it takes you to a question, which then is like, what kind of plastic item is it? And you say, if it's a bottle or a jug, the neck is smaller than the body. Yes, that's recyclable, but you can leave the caps off of it. And then hopefully that is just a little bit more like laid out clear than a picture is. And so I'm really trying to make sure that we are answering the questions that people have about these very, very specific. I mean, I get into clothing and blankets and styrofoam and wrapping paper. Like, I try to include as many items as I could, just based off of what I've seen at our material recovery facility and based off of questions that we've had or that Ask Sam has had, or what have you. So I did try to make it as extensive as I could, and hopefully laying it out in a way that is easy for people to understand, maybe more so than trying to figure out what that, jug on the picture is, kind of thing. So
I think that would be very helpful.
I hope so, yes.
I know in my household, we always have arguments about, I think this goes, no, I don't think so. Yeah, fine. That's okay.
Yes.
And you mentioned before when you were talking about this at the beginning, Helen, but if you can also say, if the city does not recycle it, here are places that you can take it.
That is the plan.
Yes, that will be very helpful.
Yeah, and I'm sure I will be missing some items or maybe missing some directions, and maybe we find that out from feedback from the form. But yeah, so I'm prepared to update it as needed. But I did try to cover as many bases as I could right off the bat. So yes, I've done that as well.
So batteries and compact fluorescent bulbs, that comes up a lot,
Yeah.
where to take them.
Those both are included and named. So
Wonderful.
Yes.
Question. Southeast Ward, Stackhouse. When it comes down to composting, I know we used to have a lot of compost piles over in Quarry Park before they developed Quarry Park. And I'm not sure where that was moved to. But in the Southeast Ward, there's such a large amount of brush that just remains in place that could easily be made, composted, and done with. So I'm sure that's a concern that citizens have over here. and we're not even aware where this compost pile may have been moved to as well, just to beautify Southeast Ward. So you have any information on any of that, or is that under sustainability?
Yeah, Johnny, go ahead. That's under you more than me.
Okay. We just started back collecting brush. So that's why you see all of the brush that's sitting on the side of the road, but it actually goes to our processing facilities. One at Forum 52, which is out on the north end of town, and the other one is on Overdale Drive, and they actually do compost the actual brushes and limbs and things of that nature. Now, utilities just had a free giveaway. So that department is responsible for making sure that citizens have an opportunity to get free mulch. So what I will do, I will try to also make sure that everybody on the committee, and we probably need to, I'll look at how the website's set up to see if it's given clear enough, example, or not example, but clear enough instructions as to how that's done. So I understand exactly what you're saying, sir. We used to have all of that out on Reynolds Park Road. I love that site because when my trucks went out there, we were working the Southeast, we could get to that site, offload, get back out kind of quick. But now we have to go over to, we have to go all the way over to Overdale, which is off of Clemensville Road. So it was a casualty of Quarry Park.
I understand.
Yes, sir. But we're gonna get that brush. We're gonna get that brush. I'm not gonna say soon, but we cutting on it right now.
All right, thank you.
We toting as much as the truck can haul away from there.
And Johnny, I've used the free recycling, free compost from the city quite a bit in the last 10 years. I haven't in the last few years, but I have used, and I was very thankful for it too. So thanks for that project there.
Yes, sir. And some people don't realize it. They think because it didn't come from the store that it's not good, but they don't understand the thermophilic process. So if we get the temperature right, it destroys the pathogens.
Right.
So it's good.
No, I've been there where it has been steaming hot. It's too hot to even handle. So I remember that very clearly. It is hot enough that it kills stuff. But there's a little bit of sometimes I wanted to use it for schools, and it might have sometimes metal or plastic pieces. So I recommended the schools not use it for their mulch because kids are always playing and looking for stuff. But most of the people could use it, and it's good stuff.
Good stuff. If we can get residents to not contaminate.
Yes,
that would
be the
solve
next
all of the
task.
metal and plastic issues.
Right.
Can I ask, and this is not really a sustainability council question, this is me as a gardener question. So I know I actually built my garden beds with the free compost when we first moved in here. Then my understanding was that the compost specifically stopped being something I could pick up for free when they moved off the facility down there near Winston-Salem Estate and the golf course. Free leaf mulch is obviously still available. We just went through those weekends, and I got a whole bunch of it in my house now. Am I mistaken? Is there now once again free compost that I can pick up otherwise?
Well, when we say compost, we're actually referring to what you just got.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, leaf mulch.
It's great stuff,
Yes, sir.
I top dress all my beds every year, and it just breaks down beautiful and keeps the weeds down.
Yeah, and we actually, we like to get rid of it, and I think it's an excellent product myself.
Oh yeah, I get 3 truckloads every year, every time you offer it.
Good. Go back and get some more.
Well, I think they're done. I think it was last weekend for it.
Oh, that was okay. I wasn't aware that that was the last scheduled weekend. Okay. Good.
Well, I want to be cognizant of the time. Does anyone have any last pressing issues that you want to say now? Otherwise, we can do it over email.
I just note that I'll start a Google Doc to put together, to start pulling together the annual report. And when I do that, I'll share it, of course, with everybody. And that's that.
Great.
And on the resolution, if you guys can read it and question some things, that will help us prepare for answering questions from the council members. So any even sharp comments, I'll welcome them so we can get better prepared.
And a reminder to those folks who weren't on that last call, it was approved as written. So the version that I think I sent out before the last meeting is the official version now, just to remind you.
Are there any motions to close the meeting?
I move to close the meeting.
A second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. The meeting has now concluded. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you.
Thank you for being flexible.